Welcome to the Skull King Football Podcast, presented by Fox DFS Firelines. Now, here are your hosts, Justin and Ryan Skullrood.
Hello again, and welcome to the Skull King Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Ryan Skullrood. I am the founder of Skull King Football. You can follow me on Twitter at SkullKingFB. Want to welcome you guys into the show again. Like we said in the last episode, usually I've got my brother Justin in here hosting with me and helping me out, but he and his wife are on a little vacation out to Montana for their anniversary. So it's just me again for one more night. We should have Justin back for our show that we record next Monday night for Tuesday morning. So without any further ado, why don't we go ahead and we'll get into some of the news and notes and some of the injuries going into this next week. All right. By the way, I hope everyone was able to get the waiver pickups that they wanted after our last show. I know we had a lot of waiver wire guys that we were talking about for you to possibly pick up. I was able to pick up Terrell Pryor in a league that I didn't have him. Jordan Howard got picked up in a bunch of leagues. Jack Doyle still seems to be available a bunch. So, and Jamison Crowder still seems to be available. So yeah, if he's another guy that if some of those people manage to slip through the fingers of the rest of the league, I'd go ahead and hop on them. So, all right. So let's get into this. Into the news. It was reported earlier today. Today is Wednesday. I mean, most of you guys are going to be listening to this Thursday. Seahawks signed running back C.J. Spiller. Definitely, this one caught me a little off guard as a Seahawks fan. Just shows you how injured Thomas Rawls actually is. Not only him, but C.J. Prosise is obviously still out. So we don't know if this is just a 1 week thing or if this is going to be a multi-week thing. Obviously, the Seahawks want a third down back, pass catcher out of the backfield, which really is where C.J. Spiller excels. That's what his game is. When he was back in Buffalo, they tried to make him an every down workhorse, and it just didn't work. He was a pass catching back. And the problem was, Fred Jackson was already there, and he was a pass catching back. So, I wouldn't go running out to pick up C.J. Spiller on your teams just yet. Kind of sit and wait this one out. He's one of those guys. If you miss out on him, obviously New Orleans wasn't getting anything out of him. So if you want to go ahead and just wait and let this one go by, I think this speaks more to the fact that Thomas Rawls is going to be out for a little while. So moving on, Michael Floyd, wide receiver of the Arizona Cardinals, has been cleared for football activity after being in concussion protocol. So he's good to go. Looks like the Arizona Cardinals wide receivers will be back at full strength going into their home game against the Rams. TJ Hilton did not practice today, Wednesday. A lot of people are just figuring that's a kind of a Veterans Day off going into their next game. Moving on, Titans coach Mike Mularkey expects Delanie Walker to play on Sunday, which is good news for all those Walker owners after missing this last game. I believe Tennessee is going up against Houston. They've got the in-division rivalry going on, and with J.J. Watt now out for an extended period of time, looks like Houston's put him on the IR. That's going to mean that they're going to have a little bit tougher job getting a pass rush going on Marcus Mariota. So I think that this matchup could really work out for all Tennessee Titans. The Walker getting passes, Tajay Sharp getting some passes and receptions, and really this should really help out, in my opinion, DeMarco Murray, who's really been running the ball like an animal lately. And just barreling through. I want to say he had like 150 yards in the last game. So this really, if you want to, a couple of the guys on there are going to be some value. if you want them for DFS picks. But there should be feel free to run your starting Tennessee Titans players out for this next week. So looks like Arian Foster has been ruled out for the Thursday night game against Cincinnati. So the Miami Dolphins are still going to be running like a 4 running back committee in which no one is really a great option to be using. So that's still a backfield to avoid. Still don't totally believe in Jay Ajayi. Who else they've got? I can't even remember who else they have. Their rookie Kenyon Drake. He's still haven't seen enough from him. So for now, again, I think that's a backfield to avoid. I think that's going to put more pressure on Ryan Tannehill to be able to make the passes. And really, if anything, I think that elevates Jarvis Landry, who Ryan Tannehill, that's his safety blanket is Jarvis Landry. So he should be getting a ton of receptions, a ton of short passes. So in full point PPR, Landry should be an absolute monster again this week for you because of the running game just being non-existent. Coach Pete Carroll said he would be surprised if Russell Wilson doesn't play in Week 4 against the Jets. Russell Wilson's an Iron Man. He hasn't really had to play with many injuries over his career. This year, he's trying to push through them. We'll kind of see how the game plan is going to go for Seattle. The Jets defense can be pretty tough, especially against the run. Revis has had, everyone talks about how Revis Island, how all the wide receivers have been invited to Revis Island for a bonfire. Honestly, I think that part of the problem is that he hasn't gotten a whole lot of help over the top from the safeties, and so there's a lot of those burnt coverages haven't necessarily been him. It's been the lack of help. So I think that the Seahawks could still have a really good game if they can keep to the short passes, get the ball out of Wilson's hands quick so that he doesn't have to be as mobile. I think that could really help. So if you've got Wilson and you don't like any of the options on the waiver wire, go ahead and run them out there as your quarterback. You don't like your backups, I think Wilson can still has the ability to have a really good game. Then next, Eric Decker. Coach Todd Bowles said Eric Decker aggravated his shoulder injury in the Week 3 loss to the Chiefs, and that it is worse than it was before the game. That does not bode well for the offense for the New York Jets, especially going up against a tough Seattle defense, who has been really tough on wide receivers so far this year. So in this, if Eric Decker's out, that's going to give Quincy Enunwa a boost. And like I've said before, Seattle can lock down on a number 1. Their defense has in the past had trouble locking down a number 2 wide receiver. In one instance I can remember is last year when Pittsburgh was in Seattle. Marcus Wheaton went for 200 yards, while Antonio Brown only had like 53 catches for like 40, 50 yards. So Quincy Enunwa could have a good game. It is in New York, which it's a 10 a.m. game for all the West Coast, for all those West Coast people. So the Seahawks have had trouble getting started in those 10 a.m. games. So again, I would go with Quincy Enunwa as a possible as a flyer type of guy in DFS, as well as if you've got him and you're out of options, I think he could be an okay flex play for this Sunday. I think I got a couple more. Yeah, a couple more. Jason Garrett said that Cowboys wide receiver Dez Bryant has a slight hairline fracture in one of the bones in his knee. Now, I've seen a whole bunch of different reports on what this means for Dez Bryant, what this means for the Cowboys. They are hopeful. It sounds like the Cowboys are hopeful that he'll be able to go in week 4. If he cannot, I've seen reports that this kind of a hairline fracture can take anywhere from can be fully healed in 4 weeks, but in most cases it could take 6 to 8 weeks. It's something that he can play through. Should he? Probably not. In my opinion, this does not bode well for Dez Bryant. And if he does, I think if he does play on this, that it's only going to cause more damage and he will miss an extended period of time. Unfortunately, for the Dallas offense, they really don't have that top, a solid number 2. With Dak Prescott as their quarterback, that just means that Cole Beasley is going to get a ton more targets. So he's going to be a solid wide receiver to pick up for DFS. If you've got him, feel free to run in your season-long leagues. Feel free to run him in your flex position. He should have a really solid game as well. And last but not least, let's go ahead and go into this. Ravens running back Kenneth Dixon returned to practice. He is the young rookie who showed the most promise coming into the season, and then suffered the MCL injury. It's looking like he's probably not going to play in week 4. He's most likely going to play week 5. I think is what they're looking at for a return for him. Coach Harbaugh has expressed his disappointment in the Ravens' running game, and he's looking at potential changes in the backfield. I think this means that Kenneth Dixon, if he is available, pick him up as soon as he is healthy. I think they're just going to plain roll with him. I want to say that Baltimore is actually 3-0 right now, so they've had a good start and not had great play from their running back position. So if you can get Kenneth Dixon and they can get rolling, I think that Kenneth Dixon could be a really great pickup for you. I have a couple of leagues I want to get him, but don't necessarily have the bench space to get him. Because of who I have. I'm trying to, I've had a couple spots where I tried to make a trade just so I can try to pick him up on waivers, try to get, a 2-for-1 trade so that I can have that extra spot to stash him. So, and hold him for a week to go into next week. All right. I think that was all the news. No, that's a lot of the injury news. A couple just basic news things. Drew Brees said his trust factor and confidence level in Coby Fleener just continues to go up. That was pretty obvious in the Monday night game. 10 targets, 10 or 11 targets, 7 catches, 106 yards and a TD. Fleener's still having some drops, but I think that's just a chemistry issue that they're still working out. That as we always say, the tight end position in New Orleans is going to be a heavily targeted position, and so he should continue to get a whole bunch of yards. Moving on. No, I think that's pretty much it. Yep, I think that's pretty much it. So that's it for our news. We have a couple announcements going on here. We wanted to announce that Skulking Football is now, as we've kind of pushed or made our way into the DFS market a little bit, working with Vox DFS, who we are so happy to be able to work with. It's been a real pleasure to be able to partner with them, be able to help them out. I did another Q&A today on their chat boards, which we're pretty much setting up every Wednesday, being able to do a Q&A with the Vox DFS guys, and with all their subscribers to give them a little bit, not only season-long advice, but just who I think are going to be some good players to go with for their DFS lineups, based on some of my knowledge and research. So it's really been great to partner with them. And now, kind of on top of that, as we have kind of looked around at what DFS platform to really endorse and go with as our main one, we had been kind of looking at DraftKings, but we've moved on to we're looking at officially going with Yahoo DFS. Looking around the major DFS markets and platforms have a lot of the big ones, DraftKings and FanDuel, they have a ton of professionals that are all over all their contests, or putting in hundreds of lineups where they can, making it, let's be honest, that makes it a little bit tough on the guys like you and I who may not be able to have a ton of money, may not have $100 to throw 30 lineups in a $3 contest. So so we have partnered with Yahoo DFS, who they are the industry leader right now in fair play in the DFS market. They have a lot of great features and options to be able to use on there. If I've had one of the Vox DFS guys who loves playing on Yahoo, loves that the contests are not quite so jam packed with like we said, with the professional players who are just loading up with a ton of lineups. One guy on the Vox DFS team said that he actually fell asleep and entered the contest and went kind of walked away from his computer, ended up falling asleep, and had had half of his lineup filled out, and came back. Games had already started, so he wasn't able to with like DraftKings, FanDuel, that locked. I think it's FanDuel. His lineups would have locked. It didn't with Yahoo. He was actually able to go in and fill out the rest of his contest roster with the games that had not started yet. So he was still able to put up a competitive lineup thanks to Yahoo's Fair Play Act. So we would encourage you, if you're new to the DFS market, go ahead and look into Yahoo. If you want to go on to skullkingfootball.com, get onto our website. We've got a bunch of different links and ads on there for Yahoo DFS. Click on one of those on our website to go through there. And I think right now, if you sign up, click on one of the links on our website, sign up for a contest, enter a contest, you will actually be able to you'll get a free $10 entry into their big $200,000 Sunday Baller contest. Winner gets 20 grand. So yeah, be sure to click on through one of those ads on our website to enter in that contest. And one more little ad that we've got going on. We have also partnered with NFLshop.com, one of the top memorabilia sites for the NFL. I'm loving. You click on one of the ads on our website. They've got they've got a ton of the Color Rush jerseys that you can order. I'm not a big fan. Well, as a Seahawk fan, I'm not a huge fan of the neon green Color Rush jerseys. I knew that was the direction they were going to go, simply because they always play in the dark blues or in the grays. So, but there's a lot of the other Color Rush jerseys. If you're really into the Color Rush, they've got a bunch of them on there. We actually have an ad for them up there. So click on that. Check out some of those jerseys, and so yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and get into our DFS portion of the show today. Again, since we're going with the Yahoo DFS, we're changing things up a little bit. So instead of a $50,000 budget like we see on DraftKings, their budget system is a little bit different. They go with a $200 budget. So the budget numbers are a little bit different. So, but that's the numbers we're going to be using for this show. So for Yahoo, instead of we're doing $20 is their kind of their midline that they use. So for our value guys, we're looking under $20. And we've got a few wide receivers to look at. Like I talked about earlier, Quincy Enunwa, he's only $15 going up against Seattle, so he's got a tough matchup. However, he will be the number 2 wide receiver. He's shown that he can be a solid guy, and even in tough matchups, he's a big target that Fitzpatrick has liked throwing to. So Quincy Enunwa at $15 is going to be a great value for you to possibly throw into your lineups if you want to take a little flyer on someone. Also, we've got at wide receiver Tyrell Williams. He's $19 going up against New Orleans. It's at home in San Diego. The New Orleans defense has shown that they really can't stop anyone, whether on the ground or through the air. And again, Tyrell Williams is a big-bodied receiver that Rivers loves throwing to, and he's got great speed. So he's definitely a target to watch, to put into your lineups. Next, we mentioned him as a guy to pick up on our last show, Jamison Crowder, $19. He's going up against Cleveland on Sunday. So if you're looking for, especially for full point PPR, I want to say that Yahoo is half point. He's been getting 8 targets a game. I want to say in his 3 games so far, he's gotten 10, 8, and 7. So Cousins loves looking his way, so he's gonna be a high targeted guy. Those are the kind of guys you want if there's any points for receptions. So he's definitely a guy to look at. Moving on to tight ends. If you're going that route, guys who are going to be decent values. Let's go ahead and go back to Kobe Fleener and how Drew Brees loves throwing to his tight ends, and their chemistry is only getting better. Drew Brees right now, I want to say he's the top quarterback, actually the top salary guy on Yahoo right now at $40. Because he is away from the Superdome, I don't like using Drew Brees this week in DFS. He could put up solid numbers, but I have problems trusting him on grass away from the Superdome. However, I still think that he's going to target Fleener a lot, so Fleener could still get a bunch of targets. Moving on, Zach Miller at $16, going up against Detroit. Detroit has had some issues giving up plays to the tight end. Now, last week was a little bit better for Detroit's defense against tight ends, but let's be honest, they were going up against Jared Cook and Richard Rodgers, who Rodgers has struggled with consistency as well as Cook. So, but when it comes to solid tight ends, Detroit also had trouble stopping, I want to say, Dwayne Allen and Jack Doyle. I want to say they gave up 3 or 4 touchdowns to tight ends in week 1, gave up a touchdown to Delaney Walker in week 2. So I think that Zach Miller, based on matchup, and again, he's only $16. He is a really solid pickup against Detroit. Even in season long, if you've got a season long league and Zach Miller's available, he's got a great, in your streaming tight ends, he's got a great matchup this week for you to go up against, for you to pick up a tight end there. And then one more tight end, Kyle Rudolph, $15, going up against the Giants. The Giants have revamped their defense a bit, and their defense is getting a little bit better. The main thing here is that Bradford has loved throwing to his tight ends and really showed, in his first week in week 2, a great connection with Kyle Rudolph thrown his way, and even better in week 3, going up against a tough defense in Carolina. Kyle Rudolph was still extremely productive, and obviously Bradford loves throwing his way. So if we're going to the running back position for value guys, $15 on Jordan Howard. Jordan Howard's going to take over that role in Chicago. So as long as you can get him cheap for your DFS lineups, go and get him. I really think, especially if the matchup's going to be against Detroit. Detroit's defense has struggled a little bit, so I think that he is a solid pickup to use for your lineups if you want to save a little bit of cash to get some higher end wide receivers, being half point PPR. Jordan Howard can catch the ball. Like I said last week on our last show, that he finished with 4 catches for 47 yards, 9 rushes for 45. So he didn't get into the end zone, but he is a solid player to get the yards, and I think the matchup is good enough. He will be a bit of a workhorse in that game. So, and if we're those are kind of my value picks. If we're going to talk about guys that we're willing to spend the money on in DFS, it's hard to go against Stafford right now. Again, Chicago's defense has not been great. Their numbers against the pass are deceptively good. I want to say they're in the top 10. However, all their defensive matchups so far have been against run-heavy teams that aren't dependent on the pass in order to get the job done. This week they are going to face Stafford, who's been throwing the ball all over the yard. Marvin Jones, who has looked like an absolute beast. Stafford is $37. He's, I want to say, the number 4 quarterback to pay for in Yahoo DFS right now at $37. But again, I think the matchup is juicy. He is a guy to use. Stack him with Marvin Jones at $27. And then fill in again with some of those lower paid guys, some of those value picks that we mentioned earlier. But that Marvin Jones to Stafford connection, I have that connection in 3 of my leagues. Another one I've got just Marvin Jones and just Stafford and trying to trade for Marvin Jones. I don't know how successful I'll be, but that's a great combo. Jones is basically taking over that Megatron role. So as long as he is still not too expensive, go ahead and use Marvin Jones in your lineups, and if you can stack him with Stafford, go right ahead. Another QB to look at, Rivers is also $37 going up against New Orleans. Like we said, New Orleans can't seem to stop anyone. They showed that last week against Atlanta. Now Atlanta is a high-powered offense. They can throw the ball. They've got the weapons to catch it. They obviously have the weapons to run the ball, with their 2 running backs being the top 2 scoring running backs in fantasy last week. So Rivers is a solid play. Maybe stacking with Tyrell Williams, that would be a good way to go. DeMarco Murray, going to running back. DeMarco Murray, guy I'm willing to spend on $30 against Houston. With J.J. Watt being out, like I said, DeMarco Murray's running like an animal right now. Catching the ball and running it. Put up 150 yards last week. Had a TD, rushing TD, 115 on the ground. So DeMarco Murray is running like a man possessed. If you've got him, or if you have the budget space to use him, go ahead and pick him up. I think he'll have a solid game in a division rivalry. And then 2 more running backs. Melvin Gordon, again $30. Maybe stack him with Rivers. He's really their 3-down workhorse now, with Woodhead going out in San Diego. Again, going up against New Orleans, who can't stop anyone. We saw that they can't stop the run. They couldn't stop it at home. I don't think they're going to be able to stop it on the road. So if you've got Melvin Gordon in your season-long leagues, start him with no reservations whatsoever. And if you've got the budget space in DFS for the $30 on Yahoo, go ahead and use him as well. And then one last running back willing to spend a little bit of money on. Spencer Ware, he's $23. Pittsburgh, I want to say right now in fantasy, is the 3rd worst defense against the run in terms of giving up fantasy points to the running backs. I do not see, again, like we mentioned in our last show, Jamal Charles has a chance to play this week, according to Andy Reid, but I don't think that he'll play. If he does, I think it'll be a limited role just to get his game legs back underneath him. Spencer Ware has by far distanced himself from Charkandrick West as the lead running back when Jamal Charles is out. So even if Jamal Charles comes back, I think that Spencer Ware will still be the solid number 2 guy to get the touches. So he's a guy that I would be willing to spend a little bit over that $20 value in order to get him. So that's our show for this week. Again, I want to thank everyone for listening to the show. Be sure to leave a review. Let us know what we're doing right. Let us know what we're doing wrong. We want to hear from you guys. We want this show to be for our listeners, to be able to help you guys out, to win your leagues, to win your season-long leagues, to win that cash in DFS. Let us know what you like. Tell us what we're doing wrong. Let us help you. Help me help you. Great line from Tom Cruise. Let us know what we're doing right. Check us out on Facebook, Skulking Football page on Facebook. You can check out our Twitter. I run the main Twitter handle at SkullKingFB on Twitter. Check us out on Google Plus. God, where else are we? Make sure to listen to the podcast on Stitcher, iTunes. Go to Podcast Garden. It's our main hosting site, as well as checking out the video on YouTube. Again, thank you guys all for listening. And next week we should have Justin back, and looking forward to some more shows having him back. All right, so we'll see you guys next week.